Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host Luke, me, the human. Hope you're doing well, hope you're good, as per usual. Today is going to be another side quest episode where I break down small little bits, small little topics. Instead of big long form episodes, it's going to be very shorter. And today we're going to be looking at the Doctor Who novel, The Feast of the Drowned by Stephen Cole. But before we get into that, one thing I want to say quickly, a bit of business, bit of housekeeping. Make sure that you follow me on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod to keep up to date on everything and anything that I'm doing. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and all that jazz. I appreciate it greatly. So, as I said, today we're going to be looking at another Doctor Who novel. This is a continuation of a series that I'm currently doing. For anybody who didn't listen to my Stone Rose review, which was the first book for the Ten and Rose series that the BBC did. If you haven't listened to that one, go check that one out. But in that episode, I basically announced that I'm going to be looking at all of the Ten and Rose Doctor Who novels, and then at the end of it, I'm going to review the whole first season of second season of Doctor Who, when David Tennant first arrives and when Rose leaves at the end of that season. Right, so it's going to be an interesting journey. This is book 2 in that series, but there are other books. I've read all of Christopher Eccleston, all of the Ninth Doctor and Rose books. I didn't really review them, but I did do. It's my 10th episode back in season 1. So if you haven't checked that one, go check that one out. But in that one, I review all of the Nine and Rose books, as well as a deep dive into season 1 and the revival series. So if you haven't checked that one out, please go back and check it out. I had a great time making it. So today, as I said, The Feast of the Drowned by Stephen Cole is our next one we're going to be looking into. So, where was I? Right. Looking at my notes. Right. So, I'm going to read you the blurb for this book to get you into it. So, I'll get my announcer voice into it. So, here we go. When a naval cruiser sinks in mysterious circumstances in the North Sea, all aboard are lost. Rose is saddened to learn that the brother of her friend, Keisha, was among the dead, and yet he appears to them as a ghostly apparition, begging to be saved from the coming feast. The Feast of the Drowned. As the dead crew haunt loved ones all over London, the Doctor and Rose are drawn into a chilling mystery. What sank the ship and why? When the cruiser's wreckage was towed up the Thames, what sinister force came with it? The river's dark waters are hiding an even darker secret as preparations for the feast near their conclusion. Ooh, very spooky. This is a very spooky book. It's a very creepy, very sort of spine-chilling book. There are moments where, again, I'll get into this in the review, but there were moments where it felt like Stephen King's It. Obviously a lot more tame than Pennywise and It and all that, but it's very much of we all float down here. Again, I'll get into that when I get into the review, but there are very creepy moments in this book. So that is a brief read of the blurb. To give you a brief idea of the plot, I'm only going to read you a little bit, synopsis of the actual plot itself. So Rose is comforting her friend Keisha, whose brother Jay is missing in action after the sinking of the HMS Ascendant, which has been towed up the Thames in pieces. Rose drags the Doctor along and he asks what Jay did on the ship before deciding to go out for chips and a newspaper to wrap them in. After he leaves, Jay's soaked and shivering ghost appears to Keisha and Rose. He talks to Keisha first, telling her to come to him before the feast, and asks Rose to come too. Then he melts away into a puddle, which also disappears. The Doctor returns and tells them about people fainting in the newsagents. The Doctor and Rose discuss what she saw, and the Doctor says they should go to Mickey's and see what they can find out on the internet. Mickey has already done the research and gives them his printouts. They find that the ship has been brought to Statchen House and that people are going missing near the part of the Thames where it is being located. dun dun dun. It's very creepy. Very spooky. Also got a bit of continuity things that I noticed in this book that I wanted to mention. So this book might take place after Tooth and Claw, because the Doctor tells Rose in the book that humans are big sacks of water. And Rose replies by saying, I remember you saying something like that. In Tooth and Claw, he tells her that you're 70% water and can still drown, in response to using the moonlight to stop the werewolf. So that's quite interesting. I think it, like I said, I think it would say it would come after Tooth and Claw because of that quote. When Rose asks the Doctor if they can try to find out what happened with the Ascendant, he agrees, and she replies, I never knew my wish really is your command, which echoes a line in Father's Day, where the Doctor says, your wish is my command. The Doctor is now able to resonate concrete several times in this book, even though he seems to have trouble with it in the Doctor dances. I think, in hindsight, I think the reason for this is the fact of, if you remember the 50th anniversary, where we got the War Doctor, we got Matt Smith, as well as David Tennant came back, they couldn't resonate wood. That's one thing that the sonic screwdriver couldn't do. It couldn't resonate wood. But they eventually figured out that if the War Doctor, because they all have the same sort of sonic, if the War Doctor tries to resonate the wood to try and break the lock to open the door, if you can do that, then over the years, over the centuries, the calculations in the sonic screwdriver will eventually be completed by the time we get to Matt Smith, and they figure out, it's a brilliant moment. It's really, really. I'm not doing a good job of describing it. I'm basically giving the layman's terms of what happens, but it's a very good scene. And then Matt Smith, he does the door and it opens. We're very smart, aren't we? That's the sort of explanation for that, and I feel like that is the kind of the reason why now the Doctor can resonate concrete, is the fact of his ninth iteration tried to resonate. The data for that went into the sonic screwdriver. He never tried it again. The calculations were being run in the screwdriver, and eventually by the time we get to David Tennant's 10th Doctor in the book, where he is on his adventures, the calculations is complete, and then he can now resonate concrete, and he blows them apart. It's like a big, like he does it, and they just blow open like there's an explosion. So I thought that was a really cool thing. Then there was another one where the Doctor says "Asamundo," a word I shall hopefully never use again, which is similar to his line "Correctamundo," a word I have never used before and hopefully never will again in school reunion. And then, which I think comes after Tooth and Claw, which is where we meet Sarah Jane. So it's in between. I would say it's probably after Tooth and Claw, maybe after school reunion as well. At the start, probably even potentially after school reunion, because they're still in London at that time. At the start of the chapter 15, Kepler says we're going to need Touchwood, referring to obviously the Touchwood story arc. The Doctor uses his alias John Smith for the first time in this novel. There are references to the events of the episode Aliens of London, specifically Rose's disappearance. This book explores what happened during that time. And obviously the audiobook is read by David Tennant, which I just thought I'd add that in because I didn't listen to the audiobook, but if anybody's interested who's listening, you can get all these on audiobook and audio DVD. David Tennant does narrate, I think, the first 2 or 3 books in the series. So those are the continuity notes that I wrote down that I noticed. There might be more, there might be less. But yeah, this introduction is not going to be a very long one. The introduction for the Stone Rose was longer because obviously I had to explain and properly introduce the series that I had planned and the whole adventure that we're going to be going on with these books. But that's it for the introduction. Off to the review now. This book is very creepy, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting into it. So, without further ado, let's get into the book review, shall we? Just wow! This book is fantastic. It is monumentally great. Like, Stephen Cole really did a good job, and to my Stephen Cole has done a good job with a lot of the books he's written, especially with Doctor Who. He wrote 1 or 2 books for the 9 and 10 run, and they were incredible. But he really pushes the forefront, the medium, to a new level here. Really, really does. This is one of those stories I wish was made into an episode because of its subject matter and how far it goes and how far it pushes the medium. But, it might be a bit too scary for the audience, and I think probably the budget would be a bit too high as well. But that being said, it's that good, it's that well written, and it's that interesting, and it's that complex, which I won't get into spoilers here, because I want you to read this book for yourself. But there are a lot of things in this that just left me like uneasy in a good way. It spooked me, gave me goose flesh, creeped me out, surprised me, shocked me. I generally, most of the time with Doctor Who novels, and even with the show as well, there's many times where even when the Doctor is up against the wall, you know that he always has a plan, that he'll always get out of it, that he's like Columbo. He's 10, 20 steps ahead of everybody. He knows what's going to happen. He knows how it's going to play out. He's playing dumb until the last minute, till he comes like, I actually know what to do. He saves the day. And, we all go off happy back in the TARDIS and we go for the next adventure. But for this, all the way through, I had no idea if the Doctor actually knew what he was doing. And there were many times where he questioned himself, like, I don't know. All I know is I'm going to keep going until I can't keep going. And that's just incredible because it shows a new light of the Doctor. It shows a new side of the Doctor that you don't really see much. A Doctor who doesn't actually know what he's doing, who's admitted he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's going to keep trying because that's what the Doctor does. He's not going to give up. He's not going to stop. The Doctor keeps going no matter what. And that's why, we all love the Doctor. And that's why a lot of people connect to the Doctor because he gives us that idea that if he can do it, then we can do it, and we should keep going no matter what, no matter the odds. We should keep pushing. It's a very sort of wonderful message, that Doctor Who overall. But yeah, I do wish this story was made into an episode, but I can understand why it wasn't, because of how far it goes actually into like Lovecraftian and very sort of spooky. Probably, even though that Doctor Who made Blink, which I would say is one of the best and scariest Doctor Who episodes I've ever seen. The Weeping Angels scared the crap out of me, absolutely terrified me. It's one of the best episodes they ever did, and it doesn't even have the Doctor in it. This would end up being one of those just because of what happens in it and what happens to certain characters in it, and how they are changed. And again, without going spoilers, but there are a lot of things in this book that are very Lovecraftian, very sort of like very Stephen King of like, whoa, okay, this is pushing the limit to but I'll get into that all properly. Like I say, it's really interesting plot. Really, really fascinating, very creepy, especially the new enemies that bring in, because at first you don't really understand as to why Jay, who comes back, he like at the book starts with, so you're on the Ascendant, you're on the ship, and there's a big sort of storm, and all of a sudden the ship's sinking, the ship's going down, it's being attacked, it's being ripped apart, water's going everywhere, people are jumping overboard, and Jay, he's on sort of, I think the after starboard, the right or left side. I'm not a sailor, so I don't know the lingo. But basically, he's on top of the ship. He jumps off to safety as the ship's going down, and he thinks he's fine, like he's floating. All of a sudden, something grabs his leg and just pulls him under. And the next thing you know, he appears to his sister in a ghostly apparition sort of form, wet, drenched. These very sort of silvery eyes that are like very moon glazed eyes. Very much the fact of he's got dead lifeless eyes, but he's smiling, he's happy, and he's drooling water, and water's coming out of his nose, and his hair's all wet, his body's wet, and he's very calmly, very like, come save me, come help me, I need you, Keisha, come to me. That's how much I sort of heard it in my head. And then he notices Rose is with Keisha as well, because Rose and Keisha are old friends. Rose is there to kind of connect to her, kind of like console her, be there for her as a good friend is. And then when he notices Rose, he's like, Rose, come save me, come help me. And then that sort of leads to the adventure. And it's very creepy, it's very spooky. And it happens a lot of times in the story where Jay will appear to Keisha, or he'll appear to Rose. And then you have other sailors, people that are on the ship, will start to meet and say, come save me, come help me. So people are rushing down to the Thames, people are jumping into the Thames, people are drowning in the Thames, because once they jump in, these creatures are grabbing them, pulling them down and drowning them. and then they're appearing to their loved ones, and it's like you can imagine, you know somebody who knows somebody. Eventually, you'll have somebody who appear to you, and it'll be like, "Come save me, come help me, come to the Thames. I'm being, come get me before the feast begins." And it's all a law to get people to go in to drown themselves in the Thames. It's nuts. This whole story is insane. It's creepy. Like again, I'd love it as an episode. I can understand why they wouldn't do it because it is just absolutely like mass suicide and drowning and very spooky, very creepy. Like it's a lot, and I think it'd be too much for the audience at like an 8 or 9 o'clock viewing time. Um, but this is why I love this medium. This is why I love the novels because they really push the medium. They push the story of Doctor Who to the limits, and it's not just Doctor Who. It's like when I read the X-Files books, or when I read the Star Wars books, or video game novels and that sort of things. I've said it many times before, and I ain't going to rehash it here fully, but if you're going to do a novel over an existing IP, it should it should bolster up what's already there, and it should push the medium further. It should go in a direction. It should not be safe. It should go somewhere new. It should try something different. It should go be creepy, be dark, or be funny, be comical, if or try something new. And this book is one of those where it really does push it to the limit, and it allows the author, not just Stephen Cole, but other authors, to really be brave, to be bold, to try something new, to be dark, to be spooky, to do what the show can't do. I'm not saying that Doctor Who in itself is not spooky, not creepy. Daleks are terrifying. Cybermen are lifeless husks of what once were people. You have again, the Weeping Angels, it's a new sort of monster, new creature, but even so, very, very terrifying. Doctor Who can be scary, and it has been scary in the past. It has been very spooky. Even the Sarah Jane Adventures was very spooky. One of the episodes that I refuse to watch is the one with the clown. I can't remember the name of the clown, but it was horrible. Absolutely terrifying, that episode. But again, the medium, in terms of what you see on the TV, they have pushed it and they have gone far and they have tried new things and they have been creepy and been very dark. But I feel like in the books, again, wonderful things about reading literature is the fact of, because your imagination just runs wild, especially if you're interested or invested in the subject matter already, that it really can pull you in and get you sort of to the point where you're like, your brain starts going crazy, you start imagining things, and you start seeing things more clearly. You can visualize things, and again, everybody's brain's different. People will see some things differently, but the medium just allows you just to your imagination to run more wild than it would if you was to watch it on the screen. Um, and I love that. Like I said, the new enemy, like again, I don't really want to spoil them because it is a bit of a surprise. It is a bit of a twist, but it is a brand new enemy. It's not an enemy that that we know of before. It's a brand new sort of enemy, and the whole twist and how they are getting these people that have died to appear and how that works. Again, it's all part of the story, so I don't really want to spoil it. But it already links in. It's all proper huge tons of emotional manipulation, using love and manipulating that and losing people's feelings, and this whole idea of what the feast is and what they want to do with the feast. And it's very much water manipulation, and it's very, very fascinating. It's something that is very inertly Doctor Who, but also fantastically sci-fi. But it's very grounded because again, we're on Earth. It not just involves Mickey, it not just involves Rose, but you have Keisha's family as well. You have Jackie. You have everybody in London who's infected by this. So it's not just these people together who happen to like be involved and nobody else is none the wiser. Like, this is very much the fact of everybody's involved. And there's even a message, I didn't put it in my notes for the continuity, but I've just remembered there's even a moment in this book where they mention because at the beginning of the second season, when which was a Christmas special where we first meet David Tennant's Doctor, you have is it the Straxy? I think it's Straxy. The basically the people that come down, they use blood, and it's like voodoo blood magic, and it's an idea that we can get people who are a certain blood type to stand on the roof. We'll press a button, and they'll all jump off. Right? That is actually mentioned here in the book. But I think one of the police officers said, "Oh, it's just like in Christmas when you had all those loonies get up on the roof and threaten to jump off." It very much in the way it links into this story. It's very much a connection to what it's like here, where people are being used, manipulated through their emotions to jump into the Thames, to drown themselves, to be with their loved ones. Again, very much out there, very creepy, very very spooky. But again, it allows the authors to, this medium allows them to be dark, to be spooky, to do what the show can't do. There's also hints in this book of the Time Lord victorious. There is a excerpt of the book that I want to read to you. It's page 180. No real spoilers in this, but it's to kind of give you an idea and give you a sense. It's just the one page, but it's to give you a sense of the Time Lord victorious this early on in his adventures, and the type of the Doctor that the 10th Doctor was, the ego that the 10th Doctor had, and that how he thought he was better than everybody, and he was the best, he was the winner, he was the survivor. And he even says in that quote, he's like, all this time I've wondered who I was and what I was doing, and I finally figured it out. And this is him leading in a way of learning who he is and what type of person he is and what kind of Doctor he is. So it goes, yes, I saw Rose too, was all the Doctor would say. He strode through the walkways of the estate with a look in his dark eyes that said, do not mess. Mickey could hardly keep up with him. We've got to go to her, said Keisha. She's right. Rose needs us, says Mickey. Now, we can't muck about. The Doctor didn't break his step, didn't turn. Shut up, he said. But she's in danger, like Jay, Keisha insisted. We have to go before the feast. Shut up, shut up, shut up! The Doctor whirled on one heel around on them both. This whole planet could be in danger. Do you think I don't want to go jumping into the Thames after Rose? Do you think I don't want to? He pinched the bridge of his nose, closed his eyes, trying to get a hold of himself. Do I want to? And I didn't even see her clearly. My senses are about 1,000 times smarter than yours. These creatures haven't got the measure of me yet, haven't learned how to press all my buttons, but they're having a damned good go. His eyes snapped open, urgent and soulful. Now listen to me, both of you. You know that those critters in the river are fishing for humans, and they're not throwing them back. Knowing that is making it easy for your brains to fight against the alien effect. So keep reminding yourself of what you saw back at Vida's office. Don't trust the voices in your head. Don't trust those images of Rose. Trust me. Mickey considered, what are you going to do? First of all, you're both going to help me fight a dragon. So that is a bit of an expert. That's to kind of give you an idea of the time of the Victorious, how the Doctor is not to be messed with. And you don't mess with the Doctor anyway. Anybody who messes with the Doctor, especially messes with the Doctor and his friends, it's not a good idea for anybody at all. But especially the 10th Doctor. He was very much of the cut of the sail, shall we say, of like, don't mess with me. I will ruin you. I will destroy you. And you even get hints of that in Matt Smith. You get hints of that in Peter Capaldi. I would say even far you get a few hints of that with Jodie Whittaker. That very much it kind of from David, like even well, you had it with Christopher Eccleston, but this new run I've noticed myself as being a Doctor Who fan, from Christopher Eccleston all the way up to Jodie, and maybe even potentially in Ncuti as well, when he comes back. But it was very much the fact of these Doctors. Again, because they've been through the Time War, again, this is my opinion, this is my interpretation, are very dark. They're a lot, like they have their light-hearted moments and they have their jokey sort of clown moments and that sort of thing, but they're very much of like, when the push comes to shove, when my back's against the wall, I'm like a rabid dog, I'm like a rabid animal, I'm going to lash out. You ain't going to want to be in my firing line when I break out, And you get it with the 10th Doctor, you get it with Matt Smith, you got it with Capaldi. One of my favourites with Capaldi is when he's with Ashore, and he's basically saying to bring Clara back, and she's like, I can't. I'm like, you can and you will, because I will bring hell down on you, I will destroy you. It's one of Capaldi's best sort of monologues, but he basically says to her, like, I will destroy you, and I will take this whole town with you, and I will get everybody. I'll get the Daleks on you, I'll get the Cybermen, I'll get UNIT, I'll get everybody. right? But that doesn't matter because you're dealing with me now. I'm basically paraphrasing what he says, but yeah, it's very terrifying. You can tell on Ashure's face, like, she's terrified, like, Doctor, you can't do this. He's like, I can and I will. Don't mess with me. Um, and I love that darkness of the Doctor. I love how far the idea of the Doctor being pushed to the limit can go. And in this, like, Rose, up until this point, she's gone. He can't find her. He wants to get her back, and he doesn't know what to do. And he's scared. He's worried. So he's got to the point where he's like, they're pushing my buttons, and they're about a limit to see how far I'll be nice until I eventually lash out. And yeah, it's just hints of Time Lord Victorious, very much of that very dark, very sort of powerful Doctor who will move heaven and earth to get what he needs and to get what he wants. And if you're in his way, good luck to you because he ain't going to last very long. And I love that. I love how that idea of a sort of Time Lord Victorious Doctor. Now, who's to say that Russell T Davies had actually sort of had an idea for that this early on? I don't know. It's just my interpretations of it, but it feels very Time Lord Victorious-y to me, which is interesting because again, it's this early on in his adventure, so it's very, very fascinating. There were many Gooseflesh moments in this book, with hints, like I said, of Stephen King's It, are very much of You'll Float too. Also very Lovecraftian, H.P. Lovecraft vibes as well, with the creature designs, how the creatures look, and how when they take people that have drowned in the Thames, how they manipulate them, how they change them, what they do to them. I don't want to get into spoilers, but it's very Lovecraftian, very sort of horror-ish, sort of what happens to a lot of like Jay and all the other people that are on the ship, as well as all the people that jumped in the Thames after the people in the ship. So very, very, very creepy. And one thing I want to sort of mention as we get to wrap it up, and as I've mentioned it loads of times, obviously this book is very creepy, but there's very much a sense, and you might feel the same, you might not if you've read this book or you want to read it. For me, very much, I always felt very uneasy with this book, especially as it started to get going. I felt very uneasy with the story. Even when all the pieces came together, when I realised the twists and I realised what was going to happen and the Doctor's next move, I was still very uneasy, and I was very much unsure because I didn't know if the Doctor was going to win. Because again, there are many moments in this book where the Doctor's like, I don't, like, he doesn't say I don't know, but you can tell the Doctor's very much the fact of, I'm not sure. I'm just going to keep going until I die or I solve this problem. All I know is that I'm going to stop these creatures, and I'm going to try my best to save the day and save as many people as possible, as the Doctor does anyway. But very uneasy because it's weird. Again, it's wonderful to see and it's interesting, but it's weird to see the Doctor have no idea what to do. It's very strange when you get a Doctor where he's like, I don't know. And you do see it sometimes in the show, but it's not as common. Usually the Doctor, again, like Columbo, he always knows what to do. So it's very uneasy there, but also it's very uneasy because it's very creepy. It's very spooky. It's very much of like when you have ghosts that appear, these apparitions that are like of a little Victorian boy and a little Victorian woman that have been dead and drowned for that long, that their apparitions are a lot more sort of mutated, a lot sort of different, a lot sort of ghastly and horrible and deformed and ick, then you have pirates, and it's very the fogs. Like I was getting ideas of like James Herbert's The Fog. You have these pirates that are drowned, and you got all different types of sailors. There's even a U-boat captain at one stage who appears. It's very much like I just feel very uneasy. Like I'm enjoying it, but I'm uneasy because I'm reading a horror but I wasn't expecting a horror. I wasn't expecting this level of spookiness. Now I'm not saying it's terrifying. I'm not saying like if you don't like horror movies or horror novels, this is not for you. I'm just saying that it is very unsettling in a good way, and I enjoyed that. And even when I didn't feel calm until the day was saved, the enemy had been vanquished. Everybody who had everybody all was well. Another day saved, and the Doctor went off with Rose, went to the TARDIS. It wasn't until that moment where like they went to the TARDIS and went for the next adventure that I was like, I can breathe now. All is well. Another day saved. All good. Top banana. You know what I mean? But up until then, I was very much uneasy, very much so. But I loved it. I really, really enjoyed this. Stephen Cole, he knocked us out of the park. If I had to give this a rating out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 4 for great. I was thinking generally about having it like as a 5, but I thought that might. It's incredible. It really, really is. I just wish it was longer. That's my only wish. Is the fact that this book is only. Hold on. It is 249 pages. I just wish it was a bit longer because I just wanted to be on that. I love horror. I love the horror genre, and I love sort of horror, spooky, creepy sort of books, thrillers. And I was that invested that I just wanted to go on just a little bit longer. I wanted to be in that moment, in that pocket of adrenaline and uneasiness and unsettledness just a little bit longer. I wanted to be, it sounds a bit crazy, but I wanted to be beaten up a bit more. I wanted to be a couple more punches in, you know, to really sort of like hound home how evil and defiant and disgusting and mutated and creepy this enemy was, and this threat that the Doctor had to deal with. So a couple more pages, a bit longer, you know, maybe expanded on it a little bit more. I would definitely been here for it. But as a small, sort of concise, sort of novel as it is, under 300 pages, under 100 or 250 pages, just by one page, it does a fantastic job. The Feast of the Drowned, outstanding, very, very outstanding book. 4 out of 5 stars, maybe even a 4.5 if I'm being generous. Highly recommend this one. I really, really do. Especially if you love your horror, if you love your sort of spooky, creepy sort of vibes, and you love Doctor Who, this one is definitely for you. So that is my review of The Feast of the Drowned by Stephen Cole. What do you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Please do let me know on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, again, write down in the comments if you like this book, or if you've read any other Doctor Who novels, or if I've inspired you to read any Doctor Who novels, anything, any sort of feedback, please do let me know. If you're not following me on YouTube, it's the Nerdstalgic podcast, and you can find me there. Also, you can find the Nerdstalgic podcast basically everywhere and anywhere that you can find podcasts. The only place you won't find me is Apple Podcasts, but apart from that, I'm everywhere else. I'm also on Audible, so if you're on Audible, check me out there. And yeah, that. Oh, actually, no, one more thing. If you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to give me a star rating, 1 to 5 stars. 5 stars, best thing you heard in your life. You absolutely love Doctor Who just as much as I do. 5 stars, or 1 star. You're not much of a Doctor Who fan, or you just completely disagree with my thoughts and feelings on this book. Whatever you feel like is fair. 1 to 5 stars. It means a lot to me immensely. And yeah, so. That has been another book review by me. So I really, really hope you enjoy it. I hope you really liked it. And I will see you in the next one. So you've been listening to the Nerdstalgic podcast. I've been your host, Luke the Human. And as always, bye-bye.